Well, you know Lance Stroll, that guy who has a billionaire dad who pretty much paid to get him a racing seat in F1? Well, he's actually been driving really good this season, so far. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Bladewolf Kagakeo and I am here to talk about motorsports and sim racing from the furry perspective. This week's topic, I'll be going over the current controversy that is causing a stir in Formula 1. This of course is relating to the pink Mercedes, Force India or Aston Martin, whatever going to be called. Oh yes, that's it, it's a Racing Point. The reason why they have been causing a stir in the paddock is that they came into the championship which looks like a very good copy of last year's Mercedes. In fact, it was so good that during testing and the first few races of the season, it actually brought them closer to the top of the field. However, for some teams, especially from the likes of Renault, they find it a bit too looking closely like last year's Mercedes. Bear in mind, Racing Point do share a lot of parts from Mercedes, particularly the engines and gearbox in particular, and also last year they did share brakes. However, because of how closely they looked, Renault reckons that it's actually, they might have picked up something just a bit more than just gearboxes and motors in general. However, the Racing Point themselves has even admitted they have taken a lot of design ideas from Mercedes by looking at photos and trying to copy as much as they can from last year's car. They even went as far as getting the FIA involved to have a look at the car to make sure that they are working within the rules as well as their designs as they went along. And, as it turns out, the FIA was completely fine with this. This didn't sit well with some other teams, as they felt they have copied a bit too much of a Mercedes car, and some believed it goes against the DNA of the Formula 1, where it's mostly about trying to design and innovate your own car as much as you can. This only escalated when the first few races, Racing Point has showed how good they are with a car to the point that they are now mixing it with the Red Bull teams in the top of the field. And because of this, they started to earn the nickname Racing Point or the pink Mercedes from the fans. Renault was so unhappy with this of how close the cars looked to last year's Mercedes, they decided to lodge a complaint, at first targeting the brakes of the Racing Point team, believing it was too similar to the last year's Mercedes brakes. Bear in mind, last season, before it became a listed part, Racing Point was allowed to use Mercedes brakes. But because it's now classed as a listed part, they have to design their own. And as you can see, they did a pretty good job of copying their brakes. They do look very similar. However, when the FIA had a look, they disagreed with Renault, and Racing Point on this particular part is in the clear. Renault was very unhappy with the ruling, and after the Hungarian Grand Prix, Renault decided to take this further, still adamant that Racing Point must have copied too much of a car. They could not understand just by simply looking at the pictures and videos of last year's Mercedes that they have managed to make a very competitive car. To the point they have actually believed that they must have taken a CAD model from the Mercedes to achieve this. Especially that they've already been sharing parts with the gearbox and engine like I already mentioned. Also, they pointed out that over the winter testing, Racing Point has been using Mercedes wind tunnel, which I like to point out is allowed under the FIA rules. In the making of this video, this is still currently ongoing regarding whether the car is legal or not, and this won't take until the Silverstone Grand Prix until we find out whether they are okay or not. Meanwhile, the Formula 1 Managing Director Ross Brawn, who was also the former technical director and team principal of Ferrari, was saying that every Formula 1 team is guilty of doing this and it's common practice. In his own words, there is not a single team in the paddock which has not copied something from another. I'd ask every technical director in this paddock to raise their hands if they haven't copied from someone else. you wouldn't see any hands, and I have certainly copied others. We used to give our photographers a shopping list. Racing Point have just taken it to the next stage and done a more thorough job. Russ Braun is in fact correct with this, that many teams has copied from other cars before, just like in 2009 where once the double diffuser on Braun GP was declared legal, many teams followed suit. However, there was a high profile case regarding copying cars. This was all the way back in 1978. The Arrows team with the car Arrows FA1 was in fact the carbon copy of the Shadow DN9. Shadow has themselves taken this to the London High Courts after a legal protest as they feel it breached their intellectual property. The result of the court went into Shadow's favour, and the High Court has ruled that the Arrows FA1 was over 70% copy to the Shadow DN9, and because of this they got the car banned with a court order, and the Arrows team ended up having to rush their new cars in order to make the grid. My thoughts on this is that I think Racing Point has did a fantastic job copying last year's Mercedes, and it's great to see another team fighting a way up through the top end of the field. In fact, I am definitely in favour for other teams to follow suit, especially if they do it in the same extremities of how well Racing Point has gone about it. If it means a more competitive grid, it will hopefully add more variation, and because of this, I am definitely all for this. I know this will upset some F1 purists, but by looking at Formula E and IndyCar, where they have the same chassis, they are certainly have a lot more closer and a lot more competitive racing, which actually makes it more exciting to watch. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you do, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. See you soon, and how you later. Awoo!